All right, so next we're going to check out the cycles mode using the freeze playhead parameter. I've loaded in a new sample. This time I have a drum sample here, and I currently have the sampler set to repitch with the freeze playhead parameter off and the key tracking off as well. So when I play the sample, you'll hear it at its original speed and pitch. Okay, so what I want to do with this drum sample is ultimately I want to grab a very small portion of this and turn it into more of a pad type sound. Cycles will be great for this. So let's go ahead and go to cycles, and I will freeze the playhead. When I freeze the playhead, we'll see the speed knob will change. And now we have the same little percentage here that we had before, so we can determine where the playhead will be frozen at. Now, if I just press play, we'll notice, just like with the textures mode, we're still going to hear a sound even though the playhead is frozen. Remember, with the cycles mode, what we're doing is we're grabbing a small period of the waveform and basically creating a wavetable with that. So even though the playhead is frozen, we're still going to be grabbing a small period of the waveform at the beginning of the sample, which results in that sound. Now, if I hold down a note and then I start to adjust the position of the playhead, we hear the kind of sound that we get. Now, when I'm moving this with the mouse, it's a little bit jagged. It's not quite as smooth as I would like. However, I could automate this or I could modulate it, and that way I can get some smooth movement where we get the waveform that's being generated to change in a very interesting way. So what I'm going to do is grab a modulator. I have my modulator slots open right now. I'm going to click here, and the first thing I'm going to do is grab a classic LFO. And what I want this LFO to do is to modulate the playhead position in a very, very slow manner. I'm not really worried about this syncing to the tempo, so I'll just keep it set to hertz, and I'll make it very, very slow. And the playhead position, we will modulate by a decent amount. There we go. So we can see how the playhead is moving. Let's go ahead and put the sampler in the expanded mode so we can really see what's going on. Let me go ahead and move this up just so that we have this a bit more centered. And I'll reduce the amount as well. There we go. All right, so now as I play a note, now we can hear some very smooth modulation happening based on the speed of the playhead position. Now, the playhead position is a percentage between the start and the end point. So if I make the start and the end point closer together, this is going to move that much more slowly. Reduce the amount a little bit more. Okay. The next thing I want to do is have another modulator that will modulate the formant control. Now, again, as the playhead position is being modulated, if I adjust the formant control, we can hear the way that this is changing the timbre of the sound. So I think what would be nice is to have this modulated by an envelope as opposed to an LFO. That way when we strike the notes will be shaped a certain way every time they're played. So I'm opening up the modulators again. I'll grab my ADSR, and we're going to expand this, and again we will map this to the formant control here. Give this a positive value. I'm going to move the default value to here. So now every time I strike a note, we can see how the formant control is being modulated. Okay, very, very cool. Let me see. So I might adjust the shape of this a little bit, make the decay time a little longer. Nice. Okay, so that'll be a pretty effective pad sound, and I like how that's working. Now again, I'm doing all this with cycles. The playhead is frozen, and I have key tracking off, but as we're playing different pitches, we still hear different notes being generated. Now all this is being done with key tracking disabled. Now if I enable key tracking, we'll notice some slight differences if we're playing notes that are pretty far away from the root pitch. So for example, that's relatively close. Let me go down an octave. And if I disable key tracking, you'll notice a slight difference. So once again, as a sound design tool, this is great, and I think this is going to be a pretty good sounding pad sound. We haven't even touched the filters or the other envelope here or anything else. There's a lot more, but for now, this will work. So I'm going to record something with this, and then we're going to explore the textures mode next. Let me go ahead and play this so far. Turn on my metronome. All right. Okay, cool. And I think the last thing I might do, just to keep the volume a bit more consistent, is I might actually have this focus more on a central area here. Okay, this is shaping up to be something pretty cool. So next, let's check out the textures mode with a frozen playhead.